Yo, what's up, guys? We're back, and this week it's for another pretty good UFC card. I mean, sneaky good main event with Arman Tsarukyan taking on Mateus Gamrot, and there's some good fights riddled throughout the entire card, so I'm definitely excited for it. We've been on a roll betting-wise, picks-wise, picking some good underdogs, so pretty happy with the results that I've been getting lately, especially on my bets and the Patreon, things like that. So, hopefully continue to move that forward. But just right before we get this video started, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of the video, which is Cashflow MMA, and big shout out to them. Obviously, they're one of the best in the world at what they're doing right now. I mean, you can't deny it. They've won 6 events in a row. They've been killing it for the entire year. So I would say, out of all them handicappers you can look at, they're definitely one of the best ones. They just won last week with Phil Haas, Gregory Rodriguez parlay, which was a plus money parlay, and it was a pretty easy win as well. I mean, Gregory Rodriguez dusted Julian Marquez. Phil Haas beat the brakes off Duran wins, so they had a really easy bet, sweat free. You didn't really have to worry about it. And currently right now, they are doing a free trial until August 1st, so you can get one of the hottest handicappers in the game for free. Test them out for about 5 weeks if you use the promo code MMAGuru. I will have it in the description below for Cash MMA if you want to check them out. But definitely recommend you giving them a look and checking them out because they've been on a roll right now. And like I said, they're definitely one of the hottest handicappers in the game right now for MMA. And then right before we get started, I did do a contest last week for the $25 free bet from Westgate, but unfortunately we didn't hit the 200 likes. So gonna just roll that over to this week, and I'll drop it down to 150 likes. So if you can get 150 likes on the video, then the winner of the person in the main event that puts either who they think is going to win and how they're going to win which round, or the 2 fighters combined significant strikes along with who you think is going to win the decision, the winner will receive a free $25 bet from Westgate or $25 through PayPal or however they want to receive it. So that is going to be a game that I'm doing for this week. So if you're interested, put down below who you think is going to win the main event, how you think they're going to win. And if you think it's a decision, put the significant strikes for a tiebreaker. But yeah, so definitely get involved. Hit the like button, put down below your pick, and you could be the winner for the $25 bet or $25 free money in your pocket. So it's an easy thing to do to try to get some free money, and think you should give it a try. But yeah, just right before we get started on the video as well, we are coming off 10 straight winning events on the Patreon, so just been killing it over there. We're almost at 70 units profit already for the year, so definitely gonna look to continue that, try to have the best year that we could possibly have, maybe even hit 150 200 units. That'd be incredible. And yeah, man, so definitely feeling confident right now with my reads, with my picks. There's a ton of MMA going on this week. There's a Bellator, PFL, they got Aries MMA going on, Cage Warriors, so definitely a good week to jump on and check out the Patreon, see if you like it, get access to some of the breakdowns, the bets, and things like that. I'm going to be doing a video for Bellator as well, so if you're interested in that, then definitely check it out. But yeah, we're going to get into these fights here now. The first fight here is Frey taking on Vanessa Demopoulos, and this is a fight I'm not really too interested in from a betting perspective. Vanessa Demopoulos is a girl that is a little bit tough to fade or bet on. We did bet on her in her last fight, where we bet on her by submission against Savannah Juarez Gomez, and it did pay off. She did get that first round submission, but if you remember, she did get knocked down, almost finishing that fight right before getting the submission. A other ref could have easily stopped the fight, and she's a type of girl where she's very dangerous because she's powerful. She actually does have decent, power in her punches and her hands and her kicks, so she could close the gap and brawl, and you have to respect her power a little bit, and she can hurt you. She's gotten some quick knockouts in the past, and she also has that elite level submission game on bottom, so you have to be very aware when you take her down that she's not going to sweep you, that she's not going to put you in an arm bar in a triangle and bring your arm home with her and get the win that way. So she's a tricky girl because she's a finisher, but she doesn't really have that rounded skill set. She doesn't have good wrestling. She doesn't have good striking offense or striking defense, really, in terms of her movement is not on point. She's real stiff. She's real obvious with her offense, and then her defense is pretty bad. No head movement, footwork, not very good, and she's kind of a sitting duck against high-level striking opponents, like we saw in her fight against JJ Aldridge, her fight with Lupita Godinez. One thing about her, she is super tough. I mean, she's very durable. You're going to have to knock her out unconscious to get her to stop fighting. And she has good cardio. So she is going to try to push, take damage. And, she only needs one slip up on the ground to get the win. So you could be cruising, you could pick Frey and, think you're looking good. And then all of a sudden in the third round, Frey ends up in a silly scramble, gets submitted, and you lose your money. So that's why Vanessa is kind of tricky girl to bet against or fade. But Frey is looking good recently. She is 37, so she's a little older. Vanessa's a little older as well. She's almost 34, but she is, quite a bit younger than Frey. And Frey has won 2 fights in a row, though, and she's a veteran. She did fight at 105, but I think she's kind of getting used to fighting at 115 pounds. And one thing about Frey is she is very good at, getting the takedowns, controlling on top, following the hips, avoiding the submissions. And she has pretty good striking on the feet, and she has power in her hands. She's technical. So I think in this fight, she more needs to go with the second option, keep it on the feet, use her striking, use her technique or straight punches or kicks, keep it long, catch Vanessa Demopoulos as she's trying to enter, use her footwork, use her superior speed, and kind of just pick at her from range. If Vanessa's pressure is really getting to her, then, maybe take her down, but just make sure that you're going to be very safe on top, and maybe just do it with short time left in the rounds, potentially. Another thing with Frey that's kind of making it where I don't really see her as a minus 260 favorite, I would bet, go with a dog or pass if I were to bet, is that she has shown some cardio issues in the past where she's gotten tired, and Vanessa Demopoulos will push. So if Frey gets a little bit tired, gets a little lazy, then we could see Demopoulos kind of, pull the win out of her hat. So I'm going to go with Frey just because I do believe that she's more well-rounded. She's more technical on the feet. If she comes in solid shape, she can use her striking and stay on the outside and piece up Vanessa. She's going to have the speed and reach advantage as well. So I think that Frey is a veteran and she's going to be able to fight to a smart game plan and get it done. But not really a fight that I'm looking to bet her at minus 260. And I'm not really looking to bet Vanessa either, to be honest. But I am going to go with Frey by decision. And for this next fight, we got an interesting fight because we got Brian Kelleher, who's a veteran, who's kind of proven that he's, top 25, top 30 guy, gatekeeper to that position. And he's been able to take out some similar guys to Bautista in the past, like Hunter Azure, like O'Day Osborne, that were younger, that were trying to kind of take his spot. But he's also had losses to some fighters like Ricky Simone, like Cody Stamen, where it kind of showed that he's maybe, not at that top 15 level per se, but Brian Kelleher is a tough guy and he's dangerous because he has power in his hands and he has that guillotine that he's very good with. The other thing that makes this fight interesting, in my opinion, is Mario Bautista coming out of the MMA lab, being a training partner with Sean O'Malley. Obviously, Kelleher and O'Malley have had that beef back and forth for quite a long time now. They've been, trying to set up that fight. More Kelleher trying to set up the fight, but now he's getting a chance to fight one of, O'Malley's training partners. So maybe if he could make a statement on him and then O'Malley gets to win next week. I mean, I do think that he's way farther ahead, obviously, fighting Pedro Munoz. And I don't think he'll get the fight, but it's just kind of an interesting thing where they are giving him a guy that's kind of linked to Sean. They do train together. And I'm sure Bautista knows Brian Kelleher should target as well, kind of wants to maybe shut him up for O'Malley. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the fight, it is interesting. Obviously, like I said, Bautista's done well in the UFC as well, but he's 3-2, kind of up and down, and he's trying to kind of get away from the losses, kind of get a win streak together. And if he can beat Brian Kelleher, kind of show that maybe he has time to jump in there and gets close to top 15 or one more win before he fights top 15 guys. So this is a big fight for Bautista. He's almost 29 now, so not necessarily super young anymore, and he needs to get it going and try to move into that upper echelon if he is going to do it, especially with bantamweight being such a shark tank. But as far as how they match up, obviously Kelleher is going to be the smaller guy in there, and that's what he's used to in a lot of his fights. He has short arms. He doesn't really have good height for the division either, so he can be a little bit, at a deficit in terms of the range game. but Kelleher is good at kind of moving around. He's improved his athleticism and his speed. He used to more just be kind of I don't want to say a dumb fighter, but he's definitely improved his IQ because he used to just pressure forward and try to create brawls a little bit and then try to hunt that guillotine or land the big overhand and wasn't really that defensively responsible. But now he's better. He's gotten better with his athleticism. So I think he's more willing to move around on the outside, use his speed a little bit, and then try to pull you into these big counter punches. And then once he starts to see you slowing down, or he thinks he could start to pressure, take over, and be more aggressive because you're getting tired, or he's starting to hurt you a little bit, then he will do that, but he's a little bit smarter in the way that he approaches it. And obviously, Kelleher, another thing that I do give him credit for is that he's improved his wrestling game offensively, where he's been able to go in there and win a couple fights by taking opponents down, holding them on the ground, and not having to get in that brawl on the feet or not having to catch a submission to get the victory. So Kelleher has improved in many areas, but one thing about him is he's never going to be the fastest guy in terms of hand speed, foot speed. Even though he's improved that, is going to be at a pretty big speed deficit, in my opinion, against Bautista. And he also isn't really that, you'll throw some spins and things like that, but it's pretty obvious what he's going to look for. He's going to look for that big right hand, and he's kind of going to be looking to either land that big kill shot or land the counter hooks in the pocket, hurt you, and then jump on the neck, or get some sort of knockout opportunistic finish. He is a finisher, but he's not going to be throwing a lot of volume. He's not going to be throwing a lot of kicks. He's not going to be switching stances, feinting a lot, giving looks. Mario Bautista is that guy. Mario Bautista is a guy that he does have that Mexican style as well, and I think he needs to steer clear of that in this fight, because sometimes you do see him want to pressure forward, get hit and get it back, and get in a brawl and stay in the pocket, throw elbows. And against Kelleher, that's dangerous because he does leave openings. He did get countered and knocked out against Trevin Jones, and if he goes in there and underestimates Kelleher or decides to brawl with him, he can get his lights turned out, just like we saw Hunter Azure do. And he needs to be diligent and smart about that. He needs to use what he does have as his advantage and what he is good at doing, controlling the distance, controlling the octagon, kind of being in and out, using his range. He's going to have a big 5-inch reach advantage, trying to use his kicks on the outside, come in with the counter punches. When he does have to brawl, use your elbows, throw nice combinations, rip the body like you do, and be aggressive, but just be smart, finesse him, and then work those shots up the middle that you're really good at. Those uppercuts, the front knees up the middle, the flying knees. That's one thing about Bautista's game that's very good, is the knees. And I feel as if Kelleher is going to struggle with the distance and the speed. I think Mario is going to be a little bit smarter than he has been in previous fights. He's going to respect Kelleher. Kelleher is a veteran. He's a guy that I think, has earned the respect of fighters in the division. And I think that Bautista's going to be aware of his power, play on the outside, kind of kick his legs, front kick him, try to pull him in some elbows, some straight punches. And I see him making Kelleher want to turn into a wrestler. But Bautista is really good takedown defense. It's underrated. He has good balance. He does a good job bouncing right back up to his feet when he does get taken down. Good scrambler. And I think Kelleher is going to struggle to take him down. The other thing about Bautista that makes it dangerous to take him down is those flying knees and just the knees up the middle in general. So he's always looking to catch you when you're, changing your level. And I got to go with Bautista in this one. Even though I respect Brian Kelleher and his game, I think that Mario Bautista is more diverse. He's faster. He's going to be able to come in with a good game plan, uses octagon control that he's good at, control the range, land his shots on the outside, get Kelleher to overextend, counter, maybe, avoid a couple takedowns or two, and either get a decision or get a knockout or a submission victory. I do feel like Kelleher sometimes can walk into shots, then get submitted, like we saw against Montel Jackson when he gets over, gets for the takedown. But with Bautista, I don't necessarily see him as a huge submission threat. One thing about him is he does pour it on and try to get TKOs and knockouts. He does have a few front chokes, but he hasn't really shown that part of his game since early in his career. And Kelleher is super tough to put away, so I'm just going to say that Bautista beats him up en route to a decision, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Bautista gets a finish either. And in this next fight, we got a battle of two grapplers, two guys that, I've had some issues recently, outside the cage. I guess you could say with Cody Durden, it's not really outside the cage, but he made that comment after the, the fight where he fought, I always fuck up that guy's name. I'm just going to say Kuling Ayori. I can't remember how they, Arichi Lang. It's not anything like I was just saying it, but yeah. So he like said that comment or whatever, and then he fought Makayev, where it was kind of a big deal, kind of like the Tony Kelly thing, and then Makayev knocked him out in the first round. So kind of is gonna have to bounce back from that bad perception and all that from the fans, and just kind of being down on himself from getting finished early against a young guy, but. JP Bays has that whole thing going on with Cheyenne, or they had that, kind of, I don't even know if they're officially divorced or what it is, but they had that kind of whatever turmoil going on in their personal life. So both these guys kind of, I don't think Cody Durden necessarily, but JP Bays, I think, has, a lot to fight for here. He's 0-2, and I think he's going to be kind of, it's either going to go one way or the other, right? He's going to be bullied, and he's going to be kind of wanting to do really well because of the things that happen, kind of shut out the noise and put his head down and went to work, or he's going to, be distracted and not look very good in the fight. So it's kind of a tough fight to call, really, because it pits two grapplers, two guys that really haven't been the most trustworthy or best level fighter in the UFC. JP Bays is younger. He's the better athlete, in my opinion. He's faster, stronger, more explosive. And I do think Bays has better, more diverse striking. The issue with Bays is he can get timid on the feet. His chin is a little bit questionable. And he has cardio issues when he can't out-grapple someone or just dominate them and finish them early. With Cody Durden, he isn't the fastest fighter. He isn't the most technical grappler, or the technical striker, but he has good leg kicks. He throws heavy overhands. His boxing is sloppy, but he's in there and he's willing to mix it up, and he's much more aggressive and willing to go for it than JP Bays. The one thing that we don't know is, will that knockout or the flying knee to submission that just happened to Durden impede his aggressiveness, make him a little bit hesitant? We don't really know that, but there is potential for that. So that's another reason why it's hard for me to get a super read on this fight. But Durden, mainly as a wrestler, he's going to be looking to get the double, control on top, get the rear naked choke in most of the fights that he has. With JP Bays, I do think he has superior wrestling. Like, he's wrestled at the higher level. He's, even in his fights, his wrestling could look more impressive, getting slams and being very dominant. But he's shown that he could struggle and slow down against guys that could scramble with him, end up on top, put him on his back. He gets tired, and he's gotten broken in the past in certain fights. Like, if you watch his fight with Joby Sanchez, for instance. But, at 26 years old, taking time off, having all this personal adversity, I feel like, Bays could come in here and, have a great performance. He could look a lot better. And I do have to say, you look at him when he fought Montel Jackson, he had a lot more spirit in that fight. He was willing to go for it. He took a lot of damage. And I think maybe he's starting to, round that out and get more of a confidence and willingness to dig deep in fights. But Durden, I think, is definitely the fighter who's proven that he's, more gritty. He's been willing to dig deeper in previous fights. And, it's tough. It's tough to trust Bays with his resume, how he's crumbled against guys, and the, further he's gone when he's faced adversity in fights, he's found a way out in certain ones. But I don't know. I'm going to go with Bays, though. I'm going to pick him by decision. I think that Durden will be competitive with his wrestling, but I think that the striking is where Bays will get a little bit ahead. And, I'm really not confident in this one. If someone told me they're confident in Durden and they give me a good, reasoning why they are, I would say go for it, because to me, I don't really have a great read on the fight, but I'm just going to go with the guy that I think has a little bit more motivation. He still hasn't earned his first UFC win yet. And he also, hasn't taken a knockout loss or gotten hurt and gotten submitted as recently. He maybe could have improved during the layoff. He is at Extreme Couture. So I'm just going to go with JP Bays here. I think that he's the better athlete, has the higher upside, has had the layoff, could come in looking improved here and younger. So I'm going to go with JP Bays, but not one that I'm confident in at all. And I do see the path to victory for Durden as well. And moving along through the card here, we got a great fight up next with Sergey Morozov taking on Raulian Paiva. With Raulian Paiva, we have a solid fighter. He comes in great shape. He has a pressure style. He is super long, rangy. He's not as long in range at 135, but when he fights at 125, he is, very long. He's still going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. And Paiva, he's a Muay Thai style on the feet, comes forward, tries to back fighters up, look to attack with leg kicks, front kicks. He has good rear crosses. He has nice round kicks to the body. He has pretty good leg kicks as well. And he'll throw 1-2. When he gets his timing, he can start to land his left hook on the counter hooks and exchanges. He's very durable. That was evident from his fight with Kelleher Phillips and other fights. He's shown the ability to take damage, continue to walk through it, pressure, give his own, gas his opponents out. I am a bit worried about his chin because he did take a lot of damage against Kelleher Phillips. He was able to survive to get the win, but then in his subsequent fight with Sean O'Malley, he took even more damage, took a crazy flurry at the end of the first round and got TKO'd. That was the first time that Paiva had been stopped with strikes in his career. He had been stopped via a cut in the past, but that does make me a little bit hesitant. He did take a lot of damage in his last two fights. Is he going to finally have his chin cracked, or is he, going to be able to bounce back from it? He is only 26 years old, so he still is young and definitely, I think, has some good years ahead of him, and he'll still be punch resistant and durable, but it is something to think about. And he has okay but not great head movement. He does overextend his punches. Defense isn't the best, so obviously he is gonna have to take some shots, so we're gonna have to kind of regulate that and see how it goes. But most of his wins are by TKO. He isn't really a big power puncher, especially at 35. He is gonna have to get wins off volume if he gets finishes or get the decision. But Paiva is very good as a grappler. He does look to mix it up and get the double, and on top he will try to jump on the back and get the rear naked chokes or jump on front chokes, but he's submission over position, and he doesn't really have the best top control, but he has very good scrambling ability. When fighters look to take him down, he is very good at either creating a scramble to get on top or get back up to his feet. His wrestling defense isn't elite, but like I said, he's very hard to hold down, really good with the deep half guard, and he's only been submitted once in his career. It's really tough to grind him out. His cardio is excellent, and he's going to be a tough out for anyone. I mean, he comes in great shape. He is a guy that has great durability, and he could do it all. But you're going to have to be in excellent shape if you want to fight Paiva. You're going to either have to be able to stick and move for 3 rounds or be a really heavy precision hitter that can knock him out, or you're going to have to be able to just be a blanket on top and be able to defend all its submissions, control them. Paiva, his record looks underwhelming in the UFC at 3-3, but he lost Kaikar France. He's fighting for a title by split decision in Australia. So if it was in Brazil, I think Paiva definitely would have got the win. If it was in the US, maybe Paiva would have got the win. And then he lost to Rogerio Bontorin, who obviously is another guy up at 125 that's in that top 5, top 10 range. And he was actually doing well in that fight, ended up losing via a cut. And he's also beaten some great guys, man. He beat Alan Nascimento, who made some noise in his last fight, upsetting Jake Hadley. He beat Giagos Magulov, who is, partners with Sergey Morozov. He beat Kelleher Phillips. So he's proven he's definitely a good fighter. At 135, I don't think he's as dangerous as he is at 125, but Morozov can't sleep on the man. And Sergey Morozov in his own right is good. He's well-rounded, and I'm sure he wants to get revenge for his training partner, his countryman, Giagos Magulov. I've seen Giagos in Sergey's corner. He may be in his corner again for this one. I don't know, but obviously they have a close relationship. And Sergey Morozov has called Paiva in the past to fight. He said that, he got a robbery over my friend and I want to avenge that. So Morozov has had his eyes on Paiva as well. And Morozov's a fighter with good footwork. He stays in and out. He has good counter punching and wrestling. He has a nice jab. He's fast. He has good straight punches, 1-2s. He does a good job getting a lot of extension on his crosses, and he's going to be trying to catch Paiva as he's pulling back with his chin exposed. Paiva has a little bit of that tall man's defense sometimes, and Sergey's going to be looking to hit him with one of those big missiles. But Morozov, he likes to feint, draw out shots, and then counter with a check hook or counter with a level change and get the takedown. He's good at controlling the center and not getting pushed back, staying ready to counter, stick in the pocket. In his last fight with Douglas Silva de Andrade, he, found out that was a detriment against a guy like Douglas Silva de Andrade. He's from the, freaking Django in Brazil. That guy just hit him with some block shit and freaking knocked him out. Just hit him with some heavy punches, hurt him really bad, and then ended up not knocked him out, but ended up dropping him and submitting him. And that came from Sergey's stubbornness to want to stick in the pocket, and he went up against an explosive guy that landed a big leaping hook and dropped him, hurt him, and kind of changed the whole fight. Another thing about Morozov is he doesn't really throw many kicks, so you have to know when he's he's only dangerous in boxing range, and he doesn't check kicks. Kickers can rack up points against him without getting countered. That's something that we saw Paiva really, really go to the well with and be effective with against his training partner. And, he threw a lot of kicks on Zumagulov, a lot of leg kicks, a lot of front kicks, and he was very effective with that. And Morozov has to be ready to counter that or close the distance. And, Morozov isn't really a finisher like Sean O'Malley, so I think if he even hurts Paiva, he is usually a guy that wants to follow you to the ground, smother, and not really is the most proficient at finishing with his hands. He does have 8 knockouts, but obviously he's gotten a lot of those early in his career against lower level guys, and he does have 17 wins. But, he did get finished against Andrade. He got dropped. I do question his chin a little bit. He got rocked against Umar Nurmagomedov. I've seen him get dropped against Josh Rittinghouse and get hurt in other fights. So I think his chin is not the greatest. Morozov is a high-level wrestler. He does have very fast level changes. He's very strong. He can hit takedowns against the cage really effectively. And on top, he has pretty good control. His ground and pound is very good, but not really the greatest submission game. He does tend to either finish with the ground and pound or grind it out. He is okay off his back. I've seen him, in fights where guys try to take him down, and he has been taken down, but he is good early at scrambling back up to his feet. He does have a tendency to give his back to get back up, and even when he gets dropped or gets in scrambles, he'll give his back and expose his back, and that's gotten him rear naked choke multiple times. If you look at it in his career, he got submitted with the rear naked choke in both of his UFC losses. He got submitted by a rear naked choke against Movsar Evloev, who's not really known as a high-level finisher, a submission artist. So he needs to correct that part of his game and not give his back, get better with his rear naked choke defense. Morozov's cardio is solid. He has been in 5-round fights, but when he can't boss the fight and be the hammer, you do see him start to slow down. He's not the best when he's pressured, and he's going to have to, bounce back from a finished loss in this fight, just like Paiva. So both these guys are in similar spots, and I'm going to go with the fighter that I think is going to be more aggressive, throw more volume, use his kicks, his range, and that's Paiva. Morozov is the favorite. He has good counter-punching ability. He could rock or even knock out Paiva early in the fight, but I don't think that he's the greatest finisher, and if he lets Paiva survive on the ground, it could come back to haunt him. Paiva's a pressure fighter. He's going to be aggressive with his kicks, his long punches. I think he can get Morozov uncomfortable, force bad takedowns, end up getting the better of a scramble, taking the back, and in their rear naked choke on Morozov, who's fallen victim to that several times. So I'm going to go with Raulian Paiva here, actually. I think he's the younger guy. He's longer. I think he's a little bit faster, more athletic. Morozov is super fast too, but I think that the range is going to help Paiva in terms of the hand speed of Morozov. He can use his kicks, stay out of that boxing range, and just be the more well-rounded guy. Force Morozov to eventually shoot a bad takedown and submit him. And I do think that the durability difference is going to come into play as well. I do trust Paiva when he gets hit to be able to recover. And in terms of Morozov, I think if he gets hurt by Paiva, that Paiva could easily finish him much more likely. So that's why I'm going to go with Raulian Paiva here to get the win. And with this next fight, you got TJ Brown making his return, trying to make it 3 wins in a row against Shayilan Nerdian-Beck, who's coming in off a upset victory over Sean Soriano. And this is an intriguing fight. I mean, Shayilan Nerdian-Beck, in my opinion, I got to give him credit. I think from his first fight in the UFC to his second fight in the UFC, his striking looked much improved, even though it still wasn't good. He improved his footwork, his head movement, and early in the fight as well, he had his hands much higher. He had a much tighter guard. I did notice that in the second round, third round, that kind of went away and his hands went back down and he was trying to use that head movement to evade shots, getting hit a little bit more. But at that point, he had already had Soriano gas and was able to end up hitting the takedowns. And, Nurdian Beck, he is a pretty good grappler. He has that Greco-Roman, Chinese wrestling, which I think is good. And obviously, in his last fight, he proved that he has extreme strength. If you just take a look at him, the guy's super strong, get you in the clinch and kind of maul you, take you to the ground. But it did seem as if, his grappling was very sloppy in his last fight. He went in there against another guy that's notorious for having poor grappling, getting submitted, struggling against wrestlers, and he got swept a couple times. There was some, scrambles back and forth on the mat that were kind of amateurish. And I think that Nurdian Beck, even though he has decent Greco-Roman wrestling and strength, he still isn't the best defensive wrestler in terms of takedowns on the legs. He doesn't have the best grappling. You can get reversed and end up on bottom. Even though he has that 46 fights where you're looking at it, you're like, damn, this guy's super experienced, right? But, if you look at it, he just really had his record fighting a lot of guys like all in 1 year. Like in 2017, he had 10 fights. He has averaged, I believe, like 5 or 6 fights a year for his entire career. I mean, it's pretty crazy, though. I mean, if you think about it, the guy has 46 pro fights. He went pro in 2016. So, I mean, in 6 years, he's been able to get 46 fights. I mean, that's pretty insane. But, yeah, and he's done well. I mean, he's gotten 36 wins and 10 losses. But a lot of that hasn't been really experience that you could say is equivalent to a UFC level fighter. It really matters when you're fighting a guy that is fighting at this top level. And with TJ Brown, you could say the same about him in terms of he's improved quite a bit. I mean, he's decided to leave Arkansas, go to Glory MMA, leave his kids, his family, and be a little bit selfish during his training camps. And it's paid dividends for him. I mean, he's gotten out there and he's gotten back-to-back wins. And he's also really improved with the striking. You see him making a lot better decisions now, not brawling as much, having better footwork, switching stances, controlling the distance a little bit better, throwing a lot of nice leg kicks, and just being a little bit smarter. And another thing that we know about TJ Brown already is the guy is a pretty high-level grappler. I mean, the guy could wrestle. He's very strong in his own right for the division. Hard to hold down. He could take you down and control you on top. He can hit big slams. He has good arm triangles and submissions. And, even though I was talking about how Shayilan improved on his feet defensively, offensively, he hasn't made those same improvements like TJ. He still just looks for the big overhand. He doesn't really offer much on the feet. And you could see that as he starts to get tired, he goes back more to his bad habits, gets sloppy. And, I just feel like TJ Brown has a lot of advantages here. He's the bigger man. He is going to be coming back down to 45 here, but his last fight was at 55. He is going to have the reach advantage. I think he's going to have the striking advantage, the wrestling advantage. The one thing about TJ Brown, though, is just he's shown some issues with his chin in the past, and he's shown issues with his submission defense. Just overall, just his fight IQ, where he's looking good in fights, and then all of a sudden he can break your heart and get submitted or get knocked out and lose a fight that he was clearly winning. So he needs to address and kind of not have those lapses in judgment, which he's been doing a better job of recently. And I don't think this is the spot where TJ Brown's going to have a hiccup. I think that he's dedicated himself. He's getting into, the prime years where he has to get going at 32. And I think he's going to go out there and put a statement on Shayilan Nurdian Beck, show that he's higher level than this guy. And I think he's going to submit him, man. I know Nurdian Beck is a good grappler, or a good wrestler, but I think TJ has higher level grappling. And I'm going to say TJ catches him in an arm triangle in the second round. And continuing along through the card, we got a fight between Tafon and Nchukwi and Carlos Ulberg in this next one. And Carlos Ulberg, we've seen 2 versions of him, or I guess 3. I mean, in his first fight with UFC banner on the Contender Series against Bruno Oliveira, he got that really nice left hook knockout, showed the danger in chasing Ulberg and being over aggressive on him. And then his fight with Kenny Nchukwi, we saw Kennedy kind of play back and let Ulberg show his greenness and kind of, newness to MMA, where he let him punch himself out on his guard. Ulberg didn't really adjust. Like, it didn't start going to the body. He didn't start kind of feinting to open Kennedy up and draw anything out. He just kind of threw volume that was not good volume, got tired, and then Kennedy landed that big kill shot, knocked him out. And I think that kind of painted how he was going to fight in his next fight when he fought against Fabio Cherant, because he was very safe in that fight. He kept his distance, used his leg kicks, pressured forward, and Fabio Cherant was able to catch him towards the end of the first round, blitzed in and dropped him. But outside of that, Ulberg was really just able to control the distance, not really get hit very much, rack up the leg kicks, land some counter crosses, maybe the occasional counter check hook, and get an easy points victory. He showed his speed, and he showed just a smarter approach, and that's kind of the approach that his teammate Israel Adesanya takes in a lot of his fights, where he just sticks on the outside leg kicks, uses his reach, which obviously is God-given for both these guys. 77-inch reach, 6'4" for Ulberg, and get fighters to chase him, and then counter him as they come in with his speed and with his good technical counters. And Ulberg definitely has that ability, and I feel as if Ulberg if he could start to show how he could fight smarter, then I think he could make noise in the division, especially at 205. Tafon Nchukwi, he was on his way to a big upset in his last fight against Asmat Mirzakhanov. In my opinion, he would have won 2-1 on the scorecards at minimum. He won that second round, was winning the third round, or I guess he wasn't really winning the third round. He won the second round pretty dominantly. It looked like the fight was moving in his favor. He arguably won the first round as well. And in that third round, early in the third round, he got the tables turned on him. Asmat Mirzakhanov landed that flying knee. He actually landed a nice check hook right before, a nice hook. I don't remember if it was a counter, a lead hook, and he rocked Tafon and then landed that flying knee and took him out. And with Tafon Nchukwi, we do have a guy that's also inexperienced in terms of his MMA career, but has a kickboxing background, former kickboxing champion, and this is going to be likely a striking fight. I could see Tafon trying to change it up and control him against the cage, or maybe get a takedown. He does train at Team Lloyd Irving, which obviously they have a good grappling pedigree, but ultimately I feel like the difference in the fight in terms of not being able to make it a grappling fight and why it's going to be striking is because Tafon Nchukwi is not really the fastest guy with his feet. And I think if Ulberg fights smart, controls the distance, uses that in and out movement, is able to, stick. Tafon Nchukwi use kicks, not really get in a boxing range down the outside, that he can avoid getting stuck in the clinch or getting taken down against a guy that's not really going to shoot explosive shots, really push crazy pace with the wrestling. Tafon Nchukwi was settled into the striking as well. But Tafon in this fight in general, I mean, he's going to be the bull, and it's going to be the bull against the Matador with Carlos Ulberg. We're going to see Tafon Nchukwi pressuring forward. And one thing about Tafon is he likes to use a lot of kicks, which I don't really think his kicks are going to be super effective against Ulberg with the height advantage and the speed advantage. I think Ulberg is going to be too fast to be able to avoid and counter his kicks. So I think Tafon needs to rely on cutting the cage off the high guard and then trying to explode and land these big punches, land some flurries, and try to touch that chin of Ulberg, where we have seen him dropped and we have seen him knocked out. So his chin is a little bit questionable. But with Tafon Nchukwi in the past, he's shown really great durability. He's been able to walk through shots and kind of, even though he's been slow-footed and not really early in fights had a lot of success, he's been countered, he's been hit as he's trying to close the distance, and his defense really isn't that good outside of his high guard. He's there to be hit. He, tends to be able to take the punishment, break guys when they start to slow down. He could start to close the gap, put combinations together, start to land his high kicks, start to, really break guys down and take over. But, in this fight, he's going to be facing a guy that is very fast. He's a sharp counter striker. And I think Tafon's going to struggle with the speed a lot, man. I think he's going to struggle with that check hook. And I think he's going to struggle just getting Carlos to stick in one position where he can get off with his combinations or get off with the power shots. I think Ulberg's going to be touching him, moving, touching his legs, countering with punches. And I do think that Tafon, even though he's shown a great chin, his last fight he got rocked, got taken out. And I think Ulberg's a guy that could rock him with the check hook as well and finish him. So I'm actually going to go with Carlos Ulberg by knockout in this one. And I think that Ulberg is going to look good in this fight. I think he's going to, be able to show that maybe he does have a future in the UFC. If he does get knocked out here or doesn't look good, then maybe we can kind of close the chapter on him. But I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg here to win via second round TKO, KO, TKO. And in this next fight, we got a really interesting fight. We got Chris Curtis, who's, man, I mean, he's came in the UFC, and I tried to warn you guys. I mean, he came in and got 2 big upset knockout wins over Phil Haas, over Brendan Allen. And if he can come in here and beat Rodolfo Vieira, and he is the favorite to do that, then he's probably going to get a top 15 guy next. Rodolfo Vieira, he's another respected guy in the UFC. Obviously, he had that incredible career in the jiu-jitsu, sport of jiu-jitsu, and then he came over to MMA, and he's been successful, going 8-1 there. He had that one really bad fight against Alexander Hernandez where he struggled with the weight cut and then really gassed out and ended up getting finished in the second round. But he was able to bounce back against Dustin Stolfus his last time out, and overall in the UFC, he is 4-1. So he's had success in, the big show. But this is the most experienced fighter that he's ever fought. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Chris Curtis, I think, is a guy that has red flags. He has flaws. I feel like he is a little bit overrated at this point just due to him getting those big knockout upset wins. But he is very experienced. He's very smart. Takedown defense is pretty good. I mean, even though he can be taken down, I think his takedown defense is pretty high level. And he does a good job of not overextending, not getting super wild, giving up easy takedowns. And as the fight goes on, he gets better at knowing when you're going to take him down, kind of figuring out what you're going to do to try to take him down, being smarter with it, avoiding the takedown, staying on his feet, breaking guys with takedown defense. And Curtis, has been controlled in the past. He's gotten taken down and laid on en route to decision losses. Most, remember his fights with Magomed Kirimov. But, he has been able to beat grapplers as well. And I don't think that Rodolfo Vieira is on the same level in terms of cardio and wrestling as some of the guys that have been able to hold down and control Chris Curtis over 3 rounds. Chris Curtis is a difficult guy to submit. He's going to be very smart in there. He's not going to give up, very many opportunities to bring home a submission. So I think that Vieira is going to have to be smart. But one thing with this fight is, if you watch Vieira's last fight with Dustin Stolfus, he struggled to kind of figure out how to get his takedown. So he settled into striking, used his jab, was pretty effective with the jab, was effective with some counters, and had some pretty good striking overall. And then eventually in the third round got the submission. So he showed a little bit improved cardio, but I feel like that fight isn't really indicative of the type of fight that he's going to have with Chris Curtis, who is a guy that's going to be pushing the pace more, attacking the body, really looking to wear on Vieira, get him tired. And I think he's going to have success doing that. I think Vieira, maybe he'll get a takedown early, but I think Chris Curtis is going to be smart. Even if Vieira gets into dominant positions, he's going to just stay safe, not get submitted. And I think that Vieira will start to get tired. Curtis will start to kind of see how Vieira is getting the takedowns on him. And he'll start to take over with his own striking, with his good boxing, with his ability to counter, with his nasty body shots. And I think that he's going to do a similar thing with that Hernandez did, where he's going to kind of get Rodolfo really tired with the body shots and then break him and knock him out. So I'm going to go with Chris Curtis, get his 3rd consecutive victory here. Could I see Vieira kind of holding him down in 2 rounds and getting a close decision? I guess, but I don't really think he has the cardio. I don't think he has the experience in MMA to do that yet. And I think that all the experience that Chris Curtis has accrued throughout his MMA career is going to pay dividends here. I think that he's going to be able to stay safe with a really high-level grappler, eventually get his striking going, and I don't think Vieira is going to be able to stay safe like Curtis does. I think he's going to get taken out. So I'm going to go with Chris Curtis via 2nd or 3rd round TKO KO. And moving along here, we got a really fun fight. We got a huge underdog in Nate Maness. He's taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. And, man, I would never put Nate Maness as that big of an underdog against anyone. That guy's a warrior, man. I mean, you watch his last fight, the guy almost got knocked out unconscious, comes back in that second round and gets the knockout himself. And, same thing with Luke Sanders. He was hurt really bad early, came back up to finish. So the guy's no slouch. He's going to hang in there and he's going to fight until the end. And he has big power. He's dangerous. So, I don't count out Nate Maness, but in terms of a matchup, this is a bad matchup, man. I mean, Nate Maness is a guy that stands tall, so he could kick pretty well. And he has that nice counter too. He has good distance and reach for the division, so he can kind of time those 1-2s pretty effectively, good counter punches, and he has the knockout power to change the fight with one shot like we saw in his fight with Tony Gravely. But he's a little bit slow, he's low volume, And I think that the footwork and the movement of Umar Nurmagomedov is going to give a lot of issues to Nate Maness, who likes to stay flat-footed, stay planted, and look for those counters with the hands, and look for the 1-2s on the lead. So I think that Umar being mobile, using that footwork, bouncing on the outside, using his kicks, which he's very adept with, is going to pay dividends. And I think that he's going to be able to set up the takedowns off that like he does with everybody. And Umar Nurmagomedov is really excellent at taking the back, and we've seen him get several rear naked choke victories, and that's kind of what I see happening here. I mean, Nate Maness is a guy that if they just fought stand up, I think could even, probably lose this fight to Nurmagomedov, because I think that he just wouldn't find that kill shot. He would get out volume with the kicks, and I think Nurmagomedov is faster. I think he has better footwork, and he would just out hustle Nate Maness. But the main thing that he's going to have to worry about here is getting taken down and getting grinded on. I mean, he does have really good takedown defense against the cage. That's one thing I will give Nate Maness. I mean, really high level. We've seen him shut down a lot of takedowns of Tony Gravely and Johnny Munoz, who are two formidable grapplers, but he can be taken down in the open. And even though he has a good sprawl, I think that Umar could find his way to Maness's back, and I feel like he could get that submission. So I just think Nurmagomedov is too high level, and he's going to be able to get the submission victory here. But yeah, I mean, the line is a little crazy. I mean, you could parlay him. I am fairly confident, but it's just Nate Maness is a guy that's 14-1 himself, and he has that one-hitter quitter power where he could change the way a fight's going with one punch, and he's never going to give up on himself. He's always going to be there until the bitter ends. So Maness is a tough dude, but I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov via submission. And with this next fight, this is a fight that I really like for Thiago Moises. He is coming off 2 losses in a row, and you don't know how that's going to affect him mentally, but I do feel as if he has a very good matchup for him here, stylistically, with most fighters or almost every fighter that's beaten Thiago Moises. I mean, the way you beat him is through forward pressure. I mean, the guy he does not do well when you could pressure him, and he does do a good job standing his ground and landing counter punches, but if you can eat his counters, keep pressuring through, and either get him against the cage, start clinching him, you could break him with the grappling, or you could take him out with the striking like we saw Joel Alvarez do. We saw Michael Johnson also the first round against Thiago Moises be super effective, just pressuring him and not letting Moises get off anything really. But with Christos Giagos, he's not a guy that really has good defense going forward. He's not super fast where you can kind of push back Moises, avoid the counters. I think that Moises in this fight is going to have a big striking advantage. I mean, he has really crisp counter punching, and when he has guys that can't force him backwards because he plants his feet and counters with his counter twos, counter hooks, counter overhands, he can have guys in big trouble because he starts to get confident. He'll start to work the calf kicks. He'll start to just use his speed and just God-given ability on the feet, which is really dangerous. I mean, the guy's a good kickboxer in his own right. He's very fast. Like you said, he has great counter punching ability, good low kicks, good high kicks. I think the low kicks are going to pay huge dividends against Giagos. I think he's going to really tear up his legs. And Giagos is a guy that likes to blitz in, blitz out, stay all the way in or stay all the way out. And that type of style, I think, is perfect to get countered. He leaves a lot of openings. We saw him get hit with a big left hook in his last fight, get finished against Arman Tsarukyan. And, I just don't think he has what it takes to counter or to pressure Thiago effectively without getting countered. And I also feel as if his wrestling, which he is good at, is not going to be something that he wants to go to against Moises, who has, one, very good takedown defense in general, but number two, he has, really high-level submission game, and he's going to be able to threaten him with submissions off his back, whereas I don't think Giagos wants to get in that type of issues. So ultimately, I feel like Giagos is kind of screwed over whichever way he tries to go here. I think on the feet, he's going to be the slower guy. He's going to leave openings for counters. He's going to be leg kicked all day on the outside. I think if he tries to close the distance and wrestle, he's going to get himself submitted. We've seen him submitted in the past a few times, and I feel like just going to be tough for him in general to get in on Thiago Moises' legs and take him down anyways. And I think Thiago Moises is going to get the TKO in this one. I know that he's not really known for his power, being a big knockout guy, but I think he's going to use leg kicks to really demobilize Giagos a little bit and then land a big counter and knock him out. It is kind of easy to read Giagos' wrestling as well, because whenever he wrestles, he goes southpaw. So I think that Moises is going to know that when Giagos goes southpaw, start to throw those uppercuts, start to maybe throw some knees up the middle, and really try to time those kill shots as well. And I just feel like Moises is a superior fighter all the way around. I think he's a better grappler, better striker, younger, faster. I think he, is just the, superior guy here. So I'm going to go with Thiago Moises to get the finish victory. And with this next fight, we got two really low-level heavyweights. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I really don't care about this fight at all. We got close money line, and I feel like Badout should actually probably be a little bit bigger of a favorite, or the bigger favorite, like minus 155. I feel like Badout's, a little bit faster, a little bit more diverse and crispy as a striker. Parisian's real sloppy, man. He just throws the, big overhands. He throws a lot of volume. He throws those front kicks, leg kicks, but tries to fight like a small guy, and it really affects his cardio. He will throw a lot of spinning attacks and real jump kicks and kind of like stupid shit for a big guy. It gets him real tired. Badout, he also has real creative striking, but I think he's a little bit more better with the fundamentals. He has a better jab. I think he has better distance control, better counter punching, better boxing in general. I think he has a better kicking game. I think he's just a little bit more technical. And I also feel like he has the superior cardio and heart in the matchup. I think that Josh Parisian's a guy that doesn't really have the best cardio. He gassed out terribly after the first round. He, isn't a guy that's going to be looking to take down Badout, so that's something that Badout really struggled with in the past, and Parisian has really struggled with in the past. So both these guys are going to have free reign to go out there and have a kickboxing fight. But I just feel like Badout is going to be the better fighter. Overall, I think it's going to start kind of a little bit sloppy and slow, and I think that they're going to be throwing a lot of volume, but not necessarily having many impactful shots. But I think once Parisian starts to get tired and sloppy, then that's where we could see Badout land a big elbow, big counter, big uppercut, and take Parisian out of there. So I'm going to go with Arman Badout by second or third round TKO. I could see it being a decision as well. So I'm going to go with Badout, but this is a fight between two guys that, I could easily see this being like an LFA main event or something. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Badout, though, in this low-level fight here. And then moving on to the co-main event here, we got an interesting fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov taking that big step up, taking on a guy that's been traditionally a gatekeeper to that top 5, top 10. If you beat Magny, you're really close to a title shot usually. And, I mean, that's big praise with Shavkat only having 3 UFC fights so far, but he is 15-0 with 15 finishes in a row. And obviously that'll move you up the ladder pretty quickly. But Magny, I mean, this guy has, I believe, the most wins in the history of the welterweight division, the most fights in the history of the welterweight division. So the most experienced fighter in the UFC of all time at welterweight, been extremely successful and proven that, he's one of the best welterweights of all time that's never won a title or never even really been in contention to win a title. But Magny, I mean, you can't sleep on him. He's a guy that his style is just hard to deal with. Anytime you got a guy that's a long grappler, it's just tough because, they can hit their long arms on you a lot faster than someone that's shorter, more compact. And Neil can just kind of be a zombie. He has great durability and cardio, so he can pressure forward, take some damage, eventually get in that clinch, pull you onto the ground or just start to overwhelm you in the clinch with knees and dirty boxing, get you tired. And that's how he wins all his fights. But one thing I do think, though, and I mean, obviously, Magny's been doing well recently. He's won 4 or 5. He's won 2 in a row. I think he's getting a little old, man. I really do, because I watched the grappling match phase with Joaquim Silva. He got guillotined in that one. I thought he looked really sloppy. Then he had his fight with Max Griffin. He got dropped in the first round. It was a super competitive fight. And I feel like a couple years ago, he would have washed Max Griffin and would have been, well superior. So I feel like Magny is kind of maybe getting a little bit older now. He's had a ton of fights, obviously, like I just stated, and he's also almost 35 years old. So I do think Magny's still obviously a beast. He's a guy that can win against anyone, and if you get tired against him, you slow down just a little bit, he's going to take over and, win the fight. But he has a tough one here with Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, Shavkat Rakhmonov, I've been a guy that, I've been a little bit more hesitant than others to jump on the train with him. But, I like what I see more recently. Obviously, I do feel like athletically, I do think he is a little bit slower at times. Like he could have bad defense as well and float his chin, but he's shown extremely good durability. I mean, he took some big shots against Alex Oliveira, and he could walk right through him. He stays super composed, and when he finds his time to explode or land his combinations, he throws with vicious intent. He really damages guys, and that damage adds up over 3 rounds. So Shavkat's a guy that I think would be very good in 5-round fights. He's also really big for the weight class. He's 6'1". He's going to have a 77-inch reach. Most fights he's going to be, significantly taller and longer than his opponent. And this one, obviously, with Neil Magny, he's faced a guy that has an 80-inch reach. That's going to be a different look for him. I don't know if he's ever fought a guy that's longer than him in his career. But stand-up wise at range, I think Shavkat has the big advantage because I think he's more powerful and faster. I think he has a more diversity of weapons as well. He throws those spin kicks. He throws really nice leg kicks. And he has big power with his jab, with his rear hand. He's pretty technical. He keeps it sharp. And I think he could give Neil a lot of issues with the stand-up. I also think that in terms of the grappling, the one area where I think Magny is going to try to bring this fight and what I think his game plan is going to be is to try to work his way into the clinch, really get, body to body, really try to stay tight and just get Shavkat tired, knees to the body, knees, or elbows to the head, short punches, and try to wear on him, control him in the clinch, and just grind him out. Because we have seen in a couple of his fights, he did get control in the clinch for a period of time before he hit that guillotine on Alex Oliveira. We saw him controlling the clinch a little bit against Michel Prazeres. And I think, a good game plan for Shavkat to counteract that is to grapple himself, get a takedown, get on top, which I do think he could do. And if he could do that, kind of show Neil, hey, man, I can grapple too. I could take you down. I could put you on your back. And I think that could pay dividends. I also think that Shavkat is the superior grappler on the mat, could get a submission victory as well. And, so I just feel like Shavkat has him covered in all areas. It's just if he is going to be used to that grind, that clinch, that length, and that does give Neil Magny the outside chance to pull the upset. I do think the line is a little disrespectful. I mean, I wouldn't line Shavkat minus 400, maybe like minus 250. Neil Magny has earned more respect than that in my book, but I'm not running to the betting window to bet on Neil Magny either. So it kind of does show that I am leaning a lot more towards the Rakhmonov side. I do feel like even if Neil is having success in the wrapping him in the clinch, you could see Rakhmonov land that guillotine or end up getting a takedown, getting on top, and kind of negating the work that Neil Magny did and getting the finish or kind of winning the round. It's going to be interesting, though. I mean, Neil Magny's notoriously hard to finish. Is Shavkat going to knock him out? Is he going to submit him? I mean, he's done that to all 15 of his previous opponents, so I am going to predict that I'll say he gets a second or third round TKO, but if he doesn't, is he going to be able to get a decision win over Magny? That'll be something that we're going to have to figure out, but I do think Rakhmonov is the real deal. I think Magny is a good tester here, but I think Magny, along with, just not necessarily being that upper echelon, he also, I think, is getting a little bit older and slowing down a little bit. So I think that's also playing in Rakhmonov's favor, and give me Rakhmonov inside the distance. And then we got an awesome main event here. We got Arman Tsarukyan. He's taking on Mateus Gamrot. And right away, I mean, when I'm looking at the line, I think that line is crazy. I don't know how you could give Arman, that big of favorite status. I mean, if you look at it, I do think that Gamrot, he has a lot higher level experience. He's fought the better fighters, in my opinion. And he's had 5-round experience. He's fought in a lot of 5-round fights. He's fought in 5-round fights in different weight classes. He's gotten championship round finishes. He's gotten the distance. Arman, he's never been 5 rounds in his career. He's had a couple title fight wins, but they have been 3-round title fights. And yeah, I mean, if you look at both these guys' style, they're both grapplers. They're both high-level grapplers. I mean, you look at Mateus Gamrot, the guy is, I believe, one of the best in the world at mixing it up, where he's good at using his striking to set up that single leg, and then he's just really good at finishing the single, getting on top. He has a superior submission game, if you ask me, with him and Tsarukyan. I think that's unquestionable. Arman, maybe he's a higher level wrestler. That's to be determined. But I mean, man, you look at Mateus Gamrot, he's had like a lot of wrestling. He had a lot of high level wrestling competitions with the Polish national team. The guy's been wrestling since he was a kid in middle school with the Polish national team. He's won some ADCC gold medals. So, I mean, I don't think Arman's just going to be able to take him down and lay on him and out grapple him with ease like he has these other opponents. And that's kind of what we're seeing from that line. I mean, I do think on the feet early in the fight, Arman is going to have the advantage a little bit with his speed and his footwork. He's really good in and out. He throws nice kicks, and he has improved his boxing. Like, I do see he's starting to throw tighter 1-2s. He's starting to throw like he threw that nice counter left hook in his last fight. But I do think that Arman, he's still more of a kicker. He throws those really nice leg kicks, front kicks up the middle, to the body, to the head. He'll throw round kicks. He'll throw spin kicks. And really fast kicks. He's diverse with his kicks. And I think that's definitely where he's more comfortable out at kicking range or in wrestling, whereas, or more than in the boxing range. With Mateus Gamrot, he, is a guy that I think is a little bit better on the feet long term, though, even though I think early when Arman has his speed and he's more explosive, I think he has the power advantage also. He could, be in and out and maybe be giving Gamrot a little bit of issues just finding him. But I think Gamrot, he has a pretty big height advantage, which is going to help. And he's going to, in my opinion, Gamrot's game plan should be to keep it standing early, pressure Arman Tsarukyan, and try to, get him tired, get him to exert a lot of energy with the kicks, maybe take a little bit of punishment, but just know, stay safe, know you're going to have your defense on point. And then start working your boxing, your counters, look for that 1-2, look for the 3-2. I do feel like Mateusz has the faster, sharper hands out of these two when both guys get tired, especially I think Arman starts to get a little bit sloppy with the striking. And I think Gamrot is a guy that has proven a little bit more in terms of being in longer, more grueling fights. And the other thing that Gamrot's really good at doing is, feigning the level changing and creating offense with the striking off the level change if he doesn't get the takedown, throwing punches right after. And Arman, since the Islam fight, which was super impressive, where he was able to scramble and grapple with a high-level wrestler like Islam Makhachev, he hasn't really fought another guy that has tested him, tried to take him down himself, tried to out-grapple him. And I think Mateusz is going to have no fear trying to take down Arman as well, trying to grapple with Arman. And I think Gamrot, if he gets on top, it's going to have more success controlling and doing damage on top or potentially getting a submission than Arman is, because he's just the higher level grappler. He's the black belt. He's the guy that has been in some ADCC competitions, and I think he's going to be the person that's better on top in terms of the submission game, being able to control. And I think Arman, I think he, as he gets tired, will potentially start to be able to be controlled as well by Gamrot. But Arman, I do think as well has the superior ground and pound. I think he has really, really nice elbows. And if he could somehow cement Gamrot into a position on the ground, then he could potentially, hurt him, cut him open with the elbow, change the trajectory of the fight. And I do think this is going to be a really close fight, because I think early on the athleticism of Tsarukyan and the movement is going to give some issues to Gamrot. But I don't necessarily think all of a sudden, because Tsarukyan got a knockout over Christos Giagos, who leaves a ton of openings to be countered, or finished Joel Alvarez, who's a guy that's, notoriously has, I think, 0% takedown defense, and Tsarukyan was able to take him down and avoid the submissions and pound him out with ground and pound. I don't think either of those fights make him that big of a favorite over a guy like Mateus Gamrot, who has, exceptional cardio, pushes the pace, mixes it up really well, can grapple at an extremely high level himself, and I think has the better boxing. I think trains out of the better camp. And even after his loss to Guram Kudjataladze, you still hear everyone at ATT saying they think he's going to be the future champ. Even guys that aren't from Poland, just random guys that are training with him, they all have very, very high things to say about him. And I just think this line is crazy. I mean, maybe if it was a pick-em or something, I would go with Tsarukyan. I know the line opened at Tsarukyan minus 140, so it was much closer to a pick-em. But with this line, with Gamrot getting this much value, man, I got to go with Gamrot all day as the pick. I mean, I feel like betting-wise, he's an easy bet. I think that Gamrot shouldn't be plus 210 against almost anyone in the world at 155 because he has the cardio. He's shown extreme durability. I mean, no one has been able to knock him out or finish him. The only loss that he has in his career is a controversial split decision. And yeah, I mean, to be that big of a favorite over a guy that's extremely durable, has great cardio, has 5-round experience in 2 different divisions, has elite level submission game, elite wrestling, has good boxing, has finishing ability, I think is insane. So even though Tsarukyan is a high level guy, a guy that a lot of people are, pinpointing as maybe a future champion in his own right, he's 25 years old. He's still someone that is a little bit small in my opinion for 55s. And I think that, he's not just going to run through everyone and go to the title. So, I mean, to be this big of a favorite in a competitive fight where you're facing a big step of competition against a guy in a 5-round atmosphere in a main event, your first time, Gamrot, he had the whole eyes of the world on him before. Like, he's been in KSW having the biggest attendance in the history of an MMA event, watching him fight. He's ready for this moment. He's going to be there. And, yeah, I mean, I feel like he's being totally disrespected here on the money line. I don't see many people picking him either. It's like they're writing him off like he's a bum or something. So, I mean, I just don't agree with that at all. So I'm going to go with Mateus Gamrot here as my pick, and I'm going to say he wins in via decision with the superior cardio experience in boxing, getting Arman down, winning some scrambles in his own right, showing that he's a high-level wrestler, grappler himself, and, proving in the division that, hey, man, you got to look at me too. I'm not saying Arman isn't going to be back in the mix because I do think he will be, but I think both these guys are guys that could compete in the top 10 of the division. So, I mean, Mateus Gamrot here to pull off the upset as a pretty big underdog. So, there you have it, guys. That's the full card breakdown for UFC Vegas 57, Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateus Gamrot. And as far as my most confident pick and parlay of the week goes, for my parlay of the week, I'm going to give a parlay of the week with TJ Brown and Thiago Moises. For my most confident pick, I'll go with Umar Nurmagomedov, and there you have it, guys. So that's going to be the full breakdown. That's going to be the part of the week, the most confident pick. As far as everything else, like I was saying earlier in the video, I am going to be doing a Bellator video for the Patreon. That's going to likely come out tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a PFL breakdown, potentially a video for that. Cage Warriors. There's going to be Aries. So there's quite a few other events, and we're on a 10-event winning streak in terms of betting. So we've been absolutely killing it recently. We have bets already available for Bellator, bets already available for the UFC. So urge you guys to go check that out, make some money. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the game, that we did last week, or the contest in terms of picking who you think is going to win, the method they're going to win, and what time they're going to win, which round, or if you think it's going to decision, the tiebreaker being the significant strikes. It is still going on because we did not get the 200 likes this week. If we get to 150 likes, you will be able to win a $25 bet courtesy of Westgate Sportsbook, or $25 through PayPal, Cash App, whichever way you would want to get it. If you just participate in the game and get it to 150 likes. So make sure you put a comment down below who you think is going to win in the main event, and follow that criteria. And I'll talk to you guys next week. And hopefully we can continue our winning ways with the betting and continue to give these good picks and plays out, these good upsets. So I really appreciate all you guys rocking with me. And yeah, man, I'm going to be back next week doing the same thing.